Welcome to the Barbershop Breakdown. It's your man Roscoe Squeeze Off with
Rich Blackman.
Well, about 4 or 5 days ago, we did a show on should public school police be allowed to carry guns in the school. Currently in Baltimore City, they're not allowed to carry guns in the school during school hours, active school learning hours. They actually have to push their gun into a safe, and we did a whole show about it. So we decided to get a subject matter expert, and we were lucky enough to get one of the best, probably the most knowledgeable person about this situation. Mr. Rich Blackman, tell them all about it.
Okay, so we had an interview with Sergeant Clyde Boatwright, who is the president of the Baltimore City School Police organization. And he spoke with us a little bit about exactly what the debate is and about the officers not being able to carry the guns inside the school and kind of where everyone stands on it. So check out the interview.
All right, well, welcome to the Barbershop Breakdown. It's your man Roscoe Squeeze Off with my partner, Mr. Rich Blackman. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Clyde Boatwright, who is the president of the Baltimore School Police Union. Mr. Boatwright, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your history with the police and the school department and what your job kind of entails?
Okay, so I began my career back in 2000 as a corrections officer. I spent a year in corrections, and then I went to the Baltimore City Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff. I stayed there for 2 years, and then in 2003, I came to the Baltimore City School Police, where I was assigned to patrol as an officer. I was assigned to my alma mater, Carver High School in Baltimore City, where I became the boys basketball coach. And later in my career, I became the girls basketball coach. But after being assigned to Carver, I was subsequently promoted to the rank of corporal back in 2007 and assigned to the evening shift patrol, so which was the 4 p.m. to midnight patrol. I was the patrol supervisor and citywide shift commander. I later negotiated our first union contract, and from that, my assignment changed from the shift commander of the evening shifts to being full-time detailed to handle union business only as the first union president in the history of school police. And that's where I've been since 2012, just handling union business every day.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Well, let's jump into the topic at hand. The reason we want to have you on as kind of the subject matter expert is because of what's been going on with the Baltimore City School Council not really wanting to have the Baltimore City Police carry guns in schools. So, first of all, I did some research and I saw a couple of your articles, and I saw where you believe that Baltimore was in danger of joining the grim list of cities such as deadly city school shootings such as Littleton, Colorado, Newtown, Connecticut, and Parkland, Florida. Do you still think that's possible now?
Well, I think it's definitely possible given the high level of gun violence in Baltimore City. I mean, we frequently talk about the 300 murders, but we don't talk about the over 600 non-fatal shootings that happen in the city of Baltimore. Some people will have you believe that black kids are not going to shoot up schools. I tend to agree that the data does not show that it has happened before. But if you go back to, Monday, September 10th of 2001, there was no data to suggest that people were going to just start randomly flying planes in the buildings. To say that it hasn't happened means it's not going to happen is an unfair argument for people to make. I think that we have to look at the root causes of some of the issues that happen. I mean, we've had 2 murders in Baltimore City schools, one in 2008 and the other one in 2014 or 2015. where these students were stabbed. They did not, we've had, dozens of stabbings, but these were, 2 incidents where these students were fatally stabbed.
Right.
Now, how that correlates with officers being armed, it was during a time where police officers, if you see a police officer, they are a deterrent. So to say, oh, I know that officer's holster is empty, so he has nothing on his belt that can stop this knife, so I'm going to carry the knife anyway. You know what I mean? So
right, understand.
It's a mindset thing. Yeah, it's a mindset thing. So
I fully understand.
I just hope that, I just hope people understand that, our officers don't carry or want to carry or carry guns specifically for the students. It's for any potential threat that can come into the school.
Okay. Perfect. I fully understand you. Now, one of the things that I read about is that some possible parents or even the little student organization were worried about possible harm or any type of gun-related issue between a police officer and a student. If the police were to be armed, how could you assure that would never happen?
Well, it's interesting. In the last question, I talked about 9/11.
Right.
September 11th, the school superintendent and the chief of police made an executive order to have all Baltimore City school police officers armed at all times. That went against the state law, but it was an executive order, and at that time, they were willing to take the consequences of having the police officers armed. That was unchanged for a period of 15 years. So when I talked about earlier in my intro, I came to school police in 2003. I did not know that there was a law that said that you can't have your gun. I mean, that was never even presented to me. I walked in the door. I did the required training. They issued me a firearm. They sent me to my patrol location, and nobody ever tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you got to store your gun away. You got to put a safe." That didn't happen. I mean, for a period of 15 years, without incident, none of our officers have been disarmed. None of the kids have been able to gain access to the weapon, and there's no data to suggest that we will use the weapon in a bad way towards students. So if people want to throw out data, let's not discount the 15 years that we did this without incident.
Perfect. Once again, it's the Barbershop Breakdown. Jermaine Roscoe squeeze off with Rich Blackman. And we have Mr. Clyde Boatwright, who is the president of the Baltimore City Schools Police Union. My next question is kind of a two-part question for you here. By not arming the police in Baltimore City schools, what kind of message are we sending to children? And then also on the flip side of that is, should we be worrying about the message we're sending to students when they are armed? So whether they're armed or they aren't, what message is it kind of sending to children either way?
Well, I look at it as, it's irresponsible of adults that have decision-making powers to intentionally send our kids in harm's way. There's 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, and 23 of them have armed police officers in every middle and high school. To suggest that because we are school police that we're in some way different than the other police departments in the state of Maryland is irresponsible, again, of people who should be smart enough to know what they're saying when they say it. So the message that we're sending to the 80,000 Baltimore City school students is that your safety is not as important as the other students throughout the state of Maryland. If these pundits who are against us truly cared about kids, should it only be the kids in Baltimore City schools? Why don't they take this show on the road and go to the other 23 jurisdictions and tell those officers to disarm as well? We're talking about 4 hours, a 4-hour gap. Most dismissal bells are open from like 8 o'clock to like 10. So where our officers are outside or in the main hallway or patrolling the exterior of the building while the kids come in. So I think the last intake bell with kids are late is like 10 o'clock, so it's like second period. So it's after that the officer then has to go to a safe somewhere located in the building and put the weapon away. And then when it's time for dismissal, right now, if the officer goes out of the building for lunch, he can go get his gun and go and get lunch. But when it's time for dismissal later on in the day, maybe 20 to 30 minutes prior to dismissal, the officer can then put the gun on again. And those same students that people say are scared to see a police officer with a gun, that walk past that same officer in the morning and he has his gun, they then walk past him again later on in the afternoon and the officer has the gun. So with this mindset that the kids are going to be so scared of police, I mean, it's all fear mongering from my perspective.
No, you're making an excellent point.
Right, I'm sorry, Mr. Boatwright. Rich Blackman here. I agree 100% with you. One question that I wanted to ask is, being in some counties like Baltimore County and Anne Arundel County, I've noticed that they have what they call resource officers there, which are actual county police officers and Anne Arundel County police officers. They are allowed to carry their weapon in the schools. So what's the difference? Why would that be kind of, in a sense, a difference? It's still in the state of Maryland.
So let me explain that. And there's an old saying, you don't know where you're going unless you know where you come from. So I had to do the research with some slack. So it will be like the security guard at a office building. Around 1991, Governor Schaefer passed Senate Bill 550, which made school police officers a full-service police department, as opposed to like a security guard where school police, prior to 1991, they were special police, quote-unquote. So basically, where they had arrest powers only on the grounds of the schools. They still had to go through the police academy, which it boggled my mind. You had to go through the police academy and be certified as a police officer. But then, back then, I don't know how they came up with this thing about special police. But in 1991, all school police officers became a full-service police department. So every police officer in the state of Maryland is governed by the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission. That's Maryland State Police, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, Seat Pleasant, Bladensburg, every police department you can think of. They all are governed by the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission. And so is Baltimore City School Police, governed by the same agency. Every police officer in the state of Maryland has a blue card, quote unquote, which is the term that's used. It's a certification card that says that you are, duly employed to enforce the laws. So the difference between a Baltimore City school police officer and a Baltimore County police officer assigned to the schools, the only difference between the two is that Baltimore County officers get paid by Baltimore County government and school police officers get paid by the Baltimore City Board of Education. That's it.
Wow.
Okay.
That is absolutely, this is very enlightening. That's absolutely amazing right now. Next question I have for you here is, all right, you don't carry guns in the school. If something I know you can't give up too much tactical information should something go down, but just give us an idea of what do you have at your disposal inside of a school if an emergency was to happen or a tactical threat happened to the school.
So, all of our officers are trained and certified in dealing with an active shooter or active assailant. So everybody thinks about an active shooter, but a person with a baseball bat is just as dangerous as a person with a firearm. So we're trained in active assailant, how to respond to that, a one-man response, a two-man response, a five-man response. We understand that the cavalry is coming, and some will suggest that once there's a citywide broadcast, that's enough safety for Baltimore City students, that it's enough to know that the cavalry is coming. However, seconds mean lives. So in the event of an active shooter, if you're a school-based officer, there's no legal mechanism available in order to allow the officer to go to retrieve the weapon from the safe. There's nothing. So if the officer was to go get the gun from the safe, he's in a sense taking the law into his own hands, and subjecting himself to a handgun violation by the state's attorney's office.
Wow.
That's just the reality. There was an incident a couple of years ago where the trespasser was in the Lake Clifton campus, and one of our officers engaged him, and the young man spat on the police officer, and then the officer responded by smacking him and kicking him. There was discussion, amongst our commanders and the state's attorney's office on they wanted to charge him with a handgun violation because he had his gun on at the time that he engaged that person that spat on him.
Wow.
So it's like, you roll the dice. We do know that, we have patrol units throughout the city that will respond to a call for, an emergency. But you have somebody that's right there that when they left their house this morning, they brought the tool with them to stop this threat. However, the law prevents them from using that tool, and it's in the building with them when it should be in their holster. I mean, to have somebody, if you're standing in the cafeteria and somebody comes in and starts shooting in the cafeteria, to have to run out of the cafeteria, to run to your office, open your office door, get to the safe, open the safe, get your gun, load the gun, put it in your holster, run back to the cafeteria. I mean, that's too much time when you're talking about trying to, make sure that you maintain, life and liberty and protect people that deserve to have, to be in a safe environment.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, what about, it just recently, I think it was the 22nd, I think it was Tuesday, they had the vote at the school board, and it was 10-0 to keep the police officers in school unarmed. I mean, what can we do to change that? I mean, I heard that the delegate that was, I apologize for forgetting her name, but she actually pulled the bill back. Yes, exactly.
Yes, Delegate Cheryl Glenn, I commend her for having a foresight and being bold enough to say, hey, look, our children deserve this safety. But for, Delegate Glenn is she said it clear that if there is not consensus between the mayor and the school board, then the bill does not have the votes to survive. So you have, the people that are that testified against this. Some of them are using this as their political football because they want to run for city council and other races to say, oh, we defeated the school police officers with guns bill, and we're not putting more guns around our kids. And when I hear more guns, I'm like, Jesus Christ, do you really understand that the police officer has the gun already, brings the gun to work, the kid sees the gun in the morning, the firearm, they see it in the afternoon, and to say that we're adding more guns, there's no fiscal note to this. There's, nobody's going to a gun store and buying guns and saying, hey, now you guys can carry guns. I mean, so it's just the wording that people use in order to make their point. But at this point, we're subject to the fact that the law is not going to change unless somebody puts the bill in and moves forward and take a vote. What this does, it gives everybody cover. The school board, and has given cover to the politicians that would have voted for or against this. The one thing that they don't want to have on their record is a no vote. If they vote no, and we have a mass casualty incident in the schools, then this could be used against them in the future. Right. So this is all politics. It's all politics.
Wow. Wow.
So do you think that possibly if it's a thing of, I guess that wouldn't really work either, but maybe a non-lethal weapon that the officer could carry all the time in the school?
Well,
you think?
So being a person that has had experience as a shift commander, has seen non-lethal weapons used, that person that was in the middle of the Baltimore City riots in 2015 and seen beanbags and all of that stuff used. I've seen somebody shot in the face with one of those things on the corner of Gwynns Falls and Ricestown during the middle of the riots. And I mean, inch or two either way, it could either put his eye out or hit him in the temple and probably kills him. I mean, the force that are used with those non-lethal weapons is the equivalent of being hit with a baseball bat. So, I look at it like this. It's okay. It would be the equivalent of taking a fire extinguisher to a burning blaze of a warehouse. I mean, it's not enough power to do what it needs to do. I mean, you need to put water on a fire, and somebody with a handgun, you need to have a good guy on the other side with a handgun in order to stop it.
Fully understand. Well, one other question, I didn't think about this before, but has this affected I don't want you to speak for everyone, I know you can't, but as the union president, you probably speak to a lot of people, and you probably have a gauge of what's going on. What is the morale like amongst the city police officers, school police officers?
Well, I mean, our officers, they are fully committed to safety. Some people are questioning, the respect or admiration that members of the school board actually have for them, to suggest that they would be, in some ways, use a weapon against a kid, and to have that as an employee of the district, to have this narrative about us out there, and it not be, and it be supported by the members of the board, to say that, you guys would probably do something to black and brown children and things like that, when you have a police department that's 97% African American. To suggest that we, as Baltimore City residents and born and raised in the Baltimore City public school system, are going to subject kids to some sort of abuse is wrong. So some of our officers are all weighing their options. If you look around at some of the local jurisdictions, in the last 5 years, some leaders of other jurisdictions, I'm talking about sergeants, lieutenants, and all the way up to director, are within the last 5 years with the school police officer. People are leaving and going to other jurisdictions that are paying them for their expertise and paying them for their knowledge and paying them for the job that they expected to do. It's sad that I talk to parents on a daily basis. They send me messages on Facebook. I was having dialogue with a parent earlier today, where the parents are saying, why doesn't my kid matter to the members of the school board? Or why should my kid's safety be compromised? I saw a parent say, there's no data to suggest that any of the 24 school superintendents in the state of Maryland would be subject to any violence or threats. But yet, the Baltimore City superintendent or the CEO, she has 2 armed police officers assigned to her. But the students don't. Wow. So, I mean, that's just the reality of what we're dealing with.
That is almost unacceptable. The things you just don't know sometimes, when you don't see the whole picture. And I wonder if the board members know these things.
Oh, they know.
Wow.
They know.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Hey, Mr. Boatwright, this has been amazing. We thank you so much for coming on and doing this. We're going to try to get this out to as many people as possible, because this has been very, very enlightening for myself, and I'm pretty sure for Mr. Rich Blackman as well.
Absolutely.
Just
thank you for coming on the show.
I thank you, gentlemen, for having me again. And, please feel free to reach out to me anytime if I can be of any assistance to you.
We will do. Thank you so much. And have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Do the same.
So you're a podcast listener. That's awesome. Did you know you can enjoy an even better listening experience with the new Pocket Cast app? With powerful search and discovery tools, they've made it easier than ever before to find your next favorite podcast. It's even been recognized by Wired Magazine as the podcast every iPhone user needs. Pocket Cast is beautifully designed, easy to use, and offers amazing features like play without subscribing and advanced episode search. Pocket Casts help you quickly discover and enjoy your favorite podcasts and more than 500,000 shows to choose from. Change can be hard, but sometimes it's worth it. Download Pocket Cast today from your Apple App Store or your Google Play Store or on the web at pocketcast.com. That's pocketcast.com. You'll be glad you did.
Wow. So that was a great interview, guys. I hope you guys are really listening up. Definitely we want to hear from you guys on this matter. Let us know what you think. So please hit us up on all of our or any of our platforms and let us know what you guys think. Again, this is Rich Blackman and
it's Roscoe Squeeze Off.
Peace.
As they say, the barbershop is the cornerstone of the community. We discuss everything under the sun while bringing you that barbershop-style convo in a podcast. It's hosted by myself, Roscoe Squeezeoff, and my co-host, Rich Blackman. Please check us out on our Facebook page at The Barbershop Breakdown Show on Facebook. You can also join our private group from that very page. If you want to text us any of your comments or ideas, you can text us at 754-CALL-BBS, which is also 754-225-5227. We look forward to all your comments, all your ideas. If you have any topics or ideas you'd like to even be on our show, text us, communicate with us on Facebook. We can make it happen. This is the Barbershop Breakdown. You can go to our Facebook page, The Barbershop Breakdown Show. You can also friend us on Facebook by searching for Barbershop Breakdown. You can also go to us on Twitter at Barbershop B Down. And then you can email us barbershopbreakdown@gmail.com.